Chosen one. Something has shifted in you recently. You feel it. Not in your circumstances yet, not in your bank account yet, but somewhere deeper, somewhere that doesn't have language. There's a knowing forming inside you that you can't quite articulate to anyone, not because you lack the words, but because the words feel too fragile to carry what you sense is true. You know something is coming. You feel it the way you feel a storm approaching before you see the clouds. There's a weight to it, a density, a realness that doesn't need external validation to exist. And yet there's also a restraint in you that wasn't there before, a quiet instinct telling you to guard what's forming, to protect what's approaching, to remain silent even when part of you wants to share. Chosen one, you didn't arrive at this message by accident. This is not entertainment. This is not coincidence. This is divine timing operating with precision. Heaven orchestrated this moment because what you are carrying needs to be confirmed, and what is coming needs to be protected before it can be revealed. I see you. I see the part of you that knows something real is forming, but wonders if you're allowed to believe it. I see the part of you that has sensed provision approaching, but has been too cautious to claim it openly. I see the faith that's been building quietly, the hope that's been growing carefully, the expectation that's been protected from too much exposure. What you feel is not fantasy. What you sense is not wishful thinking. What you carry is not delusion dressed as faith. Your wealth is real, but not everyone can know, not yet, and that's not punishment, that's protection. Have you been asking yourself these questions in the quiet moments? Why do I feel like I need to protect what's coming? Why don't I want to tell anyone about the shifts I'm sensing? Why does my spirit resist when someone asks me about my plans? Why do certain conversations feel dangerous now when they used to feel normal? Have you wondered why your desire to share good news has diminished? Why the urge to celebrate publicly has quieted? Why you instinctively hold back details you once would have offered freely? Have you questioned whether this restraint means something is wrong with you, whether you're becoming closed off, whether you're losing the openness that used to define you? Chosen one. These questions are not signs of problems, they are signs of progress. They are evidence that your discernment is awakening, evidence that your spirit recognizes what your mind hasn't fully processed yet. Evidence that heaven is teaching you something essential about stewardship before stewardship is required. You are not becoming paranoid, you are becoming wise. You are not becoming isolated, you are becoming selective. You are not withdrawing from life, you are being positioned for a different kind of engagement with it. The instinct to protect what's forming is not insecurity. It is spiritual intelligence operating at a level you haven't fully accessed before. Your spirit knows something. And what it knows is this: what God is preparing for you cannot survive premature exposure. What is approaching requires discretion. What is forming requires containment before it can expand. Hear this clearly. You did not arrive at this message by accident. Heaven orchestrated this moment with precision that your natural mind cannot fully comprehend. Every click, every scroll, every decision that led you here was part of an alignment you couldn't have manufactured on your own. This is divine timing. This is your kairos moment, the appointed intersection where what has been promised begins to take visible form. What you are about to hear is not motivational content designed to make you feel temporarily inspired. This is prophetic instruction designed to protect what heaven is releasing into your hands, because, chosen one, your wealth is real. Your provision is approaching. Your breakthrough is in motion. But there is a critical principle you must understand before manifestation occurs. Not everyone is authorized to know what God is doing in your life. As it is written in Proverbs chapter 4, guard your heart above all else, for everything you do flows from it. Guarding is not hiding in fear. Guarding is stewarding what matters most. Your heart is being guarded right now because it is becoming the birthplace of something significant. And birth always requires privacy. Birth always requires protection. Birth always requires discernment about who is allowed in the room. If you stay with this word to the end, you will understand why silence has been your covering. You will recognize why restraint has been your strategy. You will see clearly why not everyone can know what God is doing in you, and you will be at peace with that reality instead of conflicted by it. Subscribe now so we stay connected to what heaven is releasing. This is not about building numbers. This is about maintaining alignment. There will be more words like this, more instruction, more protection. And the connection only continues if you subscribe. Comment 777 as a declaration of agreement, not for performance, not for attention, but as a quiet marker between you and heaven, that you are receiving this word with seriousness, that you are willing to steward what is being spoken over your life, that you understand the weight of what is being entrusted to you. And if you feel led, share the city or nation where you're watching from. Plant a flag. Declare that this is where God is moving, this is where alignment is taking root. This is where the wealth that heaven has authorized is about to manifest. Chosen one. I need to address something directly because many people skip over this and it costs them later. What you are sensing is real. The provision you feel approaching is not imagination. The shift you detect in the atmosphere of your life is not wishful thinking dressed as faith. There is a difference between wanting something to be true and knowing something is forming. Wanting is rooted in lack. Knowing is rooted in discernment. Wanting hopes for external validation. Knowing doesn't require agreement to feel certain. And what you are experiencing right now, that quiet certainty that something is coming, that sense that your season is shifting, that awareness that provision is in motion even when you can't see evidence yet, that is knowing. That is your spirit perceiving what your natural eyes cannot observe. I've lived long enough to understand this distinction through experience, not theory. There have been seasons in my life where I hoped for things that never materialized because my hoping was rooted in desperation rather than discernment. The emotional signature was different. It was anxious, it was grasping, it was constantly seeking confirmation from external sources. But there have also been seasons where I knew something was coming with a certainty that didn't need validation. The emotional signature was different then too. It was calm, it was grounded, it was patient, and every single time that knowing emerged, manifestation followed, not always quickly, not always in the form I expected, but always, chosen one. What you're experiencing right now has that second signature, the calm, the groundedness, the patience. That's not passivity, that's alignment. That's your spirit, synchronized with what heaven is orchestrating. Your wealth is not a distant possibility. Your hoping might become real someday. Your wealth is an approaching reality that has already been authorized in the spirit realm. The decision has been made. The resources have been assigned. The doors have been marked for opening. What remains is timing, and timing is not your responsibility to manufacture. Timing is your responsibility to honor. You may have noticed that your relationship with money has been shifting, not just your desire for it, but your understanding of it. Money feels less like something you chase and more like something that's being prepared for you. Less like something you have to earn through struggle and more like something that's been assigned to your stewardship. That shift in perception is not coincidence. That's heaven rewiring your relationship with provision before provision arrives in fullness. Because how you perceive wealth determines how you steward it. And God is not going to release significant resources into a mind that hasn't been prepared to receive them properly. Some of you have been asking God for increase for years, praying for provision, believing for breakthrough, and it felt like heaven was silent. But heaven wasn't silent. Heaven was preparing the soil before the seed, preparing the container before the contents, preparing you before the provision, because provision without preparation creates chaos, not blessing. Anointed one. You are nearing the end of that preparation phase. The inner work that needed to happen has happened. The mindset shifts that needed to occur have occurred. The discernment that needed to develop has developed. You are no longer the same person who first started praying for this breakthrough. You've been upgraded internally, and now the external is ready to follow. But here is where the critical principle enters. Here is where many chosen ones stumble right before they receive. Not everyone can know. Let me explain this principle carefully, because it's often misunderstood. When I say not everyone can know what God is doing in your life, I'm not talking about deception. I'm not talking about pride. I'm not talking about hoarding information to feel special or superior. I'm talking about spiritual law. I'm talking about how blessing operates. I'm talking about the principle that some things lose power when they're spoken too early to the wrong audience. Not everyone who loves you is equipped to handle where you're going. That statement is difficult to accept because we want to believe that love automatically qualifies someone for access. We want to believe that history with someone means they should know everything happening in our present, but authorization matters in the spirit realm. Not everyone who claps for you is safe to hear what God is saying to you. Not everyone who has walked with you through struggle is assigned to walk with you into abundance. Not everyone whose presence was necessary in your preparation is permitted in your manifestation. This is not cruelty. This is order. This is protection. This is wisdom operating before wisdom becomes obviously necessary. I learned this lesson through painful experience. There was a season when God began showing me things about my future, not vague impressions but specific directions, clear instructions, unmistakable revelation. I was excited. I wanted to share. I wanted people I trusted to celebrate with me, to confirm what I was sensing, to add their faith to mine. So I shared, not with enemies, not with strangers, with people who loved me genuinely, people who had supported me through difficult seasons, people whose intentions were pure. And yet something shifted after I spoke. Their questions weren't attacking. They were careful. Their doubts weren't harsh. They were gentle. Their suggestions weren't malicious. They were practical. But slowly, steadily, almost imperceptibly, the clarity I had felt began to blur, the confidence I had carried began to waver, the certainty that had been rock solid began to crack. I found myself defending what I had known, explaining what should have needed no explanation, justifying what God had already validated. And in that defending, explaining, justifying process, the power leaked out of what I was carrying. It was only when I returned to silence, only when I stopped discussing what God was doing, that the clarity returned, the weight came back, the knowing restored itself. That experience taught me something I've never forgotten. Some things are ruined by explanation. Some revelations weaken when they're articulated before their time. Some instructions dilute when they're processed through too many opinions. Chosen one, God is sparing you from that experience. He is teaching you the discipline of containment, now before you need it, so that when wealth arrives, when doors open, when provision manifests, you don't leak it away through premature sharing. This is why your instinct to protect what's forming is not paranoia, it's wisdom. It's your spirit recognizing that what you're carrying is potent, and potent things must be handled carefully. As it is written in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, there is a time to keep silence and a time to speak. You are in the time to keep silence. Not because your voice lacks power, but because it is gaining weight. Not because you have nothing to say, but because what you could say would be reduced by premature speaking. Anointed one. The difference between secrecy and discernment is essential to understand. Secrecy is driven by fear. It hides because it's afraid of judgment, rejection, or opposition. Discernment is driven by wisdom. It guards because it recognizes that timing matters, that not every season is a season for revelation, that some truths must remain private until they're established. What you're practicing right now is discernment, and discernment is one of the most valuable skills you can develop, because where you're going, you will need it constantly. Let me be even more direct about what premature sharing costs, because understanding the cost creates the motivation to honor the restraint. When you share what God is doing before it's established, you invite interference, not always intentional interference, not always malicious interference, but interference nonetheless. People's opinions, even well-meaning ones, carry spiritual weight. Their doubts create static, their questions seed uncertainty. Their advice, offered from their limited perspective on your unlimited God, can redirect your attention from divine instruction to human logic. And divine instruction doesn't always make sense to human logic. God's timing doesn't always align with practical reasoning. Heaven's methods don't always satisfy earthly wisdom. I've watched this pattern destroy more emerging blessings than I can count. Someone senses God moving. They get excited. They share with people they trust. Those trusted people offer perspective that seems helpful. And slowly, the person who sensed the divine movement begins second-guessing what they knew was true. This is why the enemy doesn't always need to attack you directly. Sometimes all he needs is access through the opinions of people who love you but aren't aligned with where you're going. Chosen one, the wealth that's approaching your life is significant. It's not a minor increase, it's a substantial shift. And substantial shifts attract substantial attention. When this wealth manifests, and it will manifest, people will notice. Some will celebrate genuinely, some will celebrate with hidden agendas. Some will ask questions that are really requests. Some will offer advice that is really redirection. And if you haven't developed the discipline of discretion before manifestation, you will be overwhelmed after it. You will give access to people who haven't earned it. You will explain yourself to people who don't need your explanation. You will defend decisions that require no defense. But if you develop that discipline now, in this quiet season, in this preparation phase, in this time of containment, you will navigate abundance with the same wisdom you learned in scarcity. I also want to address something subtler. Premature sharing invites comparison, and comparison is one of the fastest ways to dilute divine instruction. When you share what God is doing in your life, you give people material to measure. They measure your progress against their expectations. They measure your timeline against what seems reasonable. They measure your vision against what has worked for others. And in that measuring, your unique instruction becomes generic advice. Your specific direction becomes general possibility. Your personal revelation becomes public discussion. God gave you specific instruction for a reason. He showed you specifically because your path is specific. What works for your assignment may not work for anyone else. What is timed perfectly for your season may be completely wrong for theirs. But when you share too early, all that specificity gets smoothed away by comparison. People say things like, "That's nice, but have you considered this other approach?" Or, "I know someone who tried something similar and it didn't work." Or, "Are you sure you're not getting ahead of yourself?" And suddenly what was crystal clear becomes cloudy. What was specific becomes generic. What was yours becomes everyone's to evaluate. Anointed one, the wealth God is releasing to you is yours. The timing He's established is yours. The method He's using is yours. Protecting those specifics from premature generalization is not stubbornness, it's stewardship. You don't owe anyone an explanation of what God is doing in your life. Obedience does not require translation. Calling does not require consensus. Destiny does not require permission. Now I want to help you navigate the practical reality of this principle, because silence doesn't mean isolation. Discretion doesn't mean disconnection. There will be people who can know. There will be people who are authorized to walk with you into this next season. But authorization must be discerned, not assumed. Here is a principle that has served me well. Access is not love. You can love someone deeply and still not give them entry into every room of your becoming. Many chosen ones struggle with this because they feel guilty limiting access. They feel like good people share everything with everyone who cares about them. They feel like boundaries are somehow a betrayal of relationship. But boundaries are not betrayal. Boundaries are stewardship. And people who truly love you will respect the boundaries you set, even if they don't fully understand them. So how do you discern who can know? First, consider alignment over history. Some people have been in your life for years, decades even, but their presence was assigned to a previous season. They walked with you through struggles that are now behind you. They supported you in challenges that have already been overcome. Their role was essential then, but essential then does not guarantee essential now. When God elevates someone, He often adjusts their circle, not to punish the people being removed, but to create space for the people being added. New seasons require new resources, and sometimes those resources include new relationships with people who are already positioned where you're going. This is not you rejecting old friends. This is you honoring divine assignment. The relationships that are truly supposed to continue will find a way. The relationships that were seasonal will naturally fade. And trying to force continuation of what was meant to conclude only creates friction. Second, observe how people respond to your silence. This is a powerful test. When you become quieter about your plans, your hopes, your movements, some people will respect that shift without demanding explanation. They will trust you without needing constant updates. They will remain supportive without requiring access. But other people will become agitated by your silence. They will press for information. They will interpret your restraint as rejection. They will feel entitled to details you're not offering. Watch these responses carefully. The people who respect your silence without resentment are the people who can handle your elevation without entitlement. The people who become uncomfortable when you don't share everything are showing you that their connection was based on access, not alignment. Third, consider capacity versus character. Someone can have wonderful character and still lack capacity for where you're going. Character means they won't intentionally harm you. Capacity means they can actually hold the weight of what you're carrying. Some people have beautiful hearts but limited faith. When you share vision with them, their doubt is genuine concern, not malice. But their doubt still affects you. Their limitations still create static. Their inability to see what you see still weakens your clarity. This is not their fault. They are doing their best with what they have, but what they have is not sufficient for what you need. And acknowledging that is not judgment, it's discernment. Anointed one, release the guilt you've been carrying about not being as accessible as you once were. You are not withholding love. You are stewarding focus. You are not shutting people out. You are being drawn inward so that God can complete the work He started. When the work is complete, when the wealth manifests, when the elevation is established, appropriate access will be restored. But it will be restored according to alignment, not according to history, not according to expectation, not according to guilt. Now let me give you practical guidance for this current season. Because understanding why silence is necessary is only part of the equation. Knowing how to navigate the silence is equally important. First, do not confuse silence with inactivity. Just because you're not talking about what God is doing doesn't mean nothing is happening. Just because you're not announcing your plans doesn't mean you shouldn't be working them. There is a difference between public and private movement. Public movement seeks validation. Private movement seeks alignment. Public movement needs witnesses. Private movement needs only obedience. In this season, your movement should be private. Your preparation should be quiet. Your positioning should be subtle. Work the plan without announcing the plan. Build the foundation without showcasing the construction. Prepare the vessel without displaying the contents. This is not hiding. This is strategy. This is understanding that some things are strengthened by privacy. Some structures become more solid when they're built away from spectators. Second, practice gratitude before evidence appears. This is one of the most powerful spiritual disciplines you can develop. Thanking God for what is coming before it arrives. Gratitude is not pretending, it's positioning. It's declaring that you trust the promise more than you fear the delay. It's agreeing with heaven's timeline instead of demanding your own. When you operate from gratitude, you release anxiety. You release desperation. You release the grasping energy that repels rather than attracts. Wealth flows toward peace. Provision follows alignment. Breakthrough finds the person who is already thankful before the breakthrough arrives. Third, let peace confirm your alignment. This is critical. You will face moments of doubt in this season, moments when the waiting feels long, moments when you question whether what you sensed was real or just wishful thinking. In those moments, check for peace. Not excitement, not certainty, not emotional highs. Peace, the calm, steady assurance that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. The quiet confidence that doesn't need external validation to feel secure. If peace is present, you are aligned. If peace has left, something needs adjustment. Peace is heaven's confirmation that you're moving correctly. The absence of peace is heaven's warning that something is off. Fourth, protect your environment. This means guarding what enters your eyes, your ears, your conversations, your space. In a season of preparation, input matters intensely. What you consume affects what you produce. Who you listen to affects who you become. Limit exposure to voices that create doubt. Limit consumption of content that feeds anxiety. Limit conversation that drains your faith. This is not avoidance of reality. This is stewardship of capacity. You only have so much mental and emotional energy. Spend it on what nourishes, not on what depletes. Fifth, remember that your job right now is not to announce. Your job is to prepare. And preparation looks different than manifestation. Preparation is internal work, character development, mindset shifts, skill building, relationship cultivation, system creation, the invisible infrastructure that will support the visible blessing when it arrives. Manifestation is external result, the wealth appearing, the doors opening, the opportunities emerging, the provision materializing. One precedes the other, and trying to skip preparation to rush manifestation always creates problems. Either the manifestation doesn't come because the preparation isn't complete, or the manifestation comes but can't be sustained because the foundation isn't ready. You are in preparation right now. Honor it. Don't rush it. Don't resent it. It is protecting you as much as it is developing you. Chosen one, I want to speak to the internal changes you've been experiencing, because many people don't understand them. They experience these shifts and think something is wrong, when really everything is becoming right. You may have noticed that your tolerance for surface-level living has collapsed. Conversations that used to feel normal now feel draining. Topics that once engaged you now feel empty. Small talk that was easy has become almost painful. This is not you becoming difficult or antisocial. This is your frequency changing. When your internal vibration rises, what once matched you no longer resonates. What once felt comfortable now feels misaligned. This shift is evidence that you're upgrading, not declining. Your spirit is outgrowing containers that used to fit perfectly. Relationships that felt like home now feel like borrowed spaces. Environments that felt safe now feel confining. Do not fight this. It's intentional. God is making the old life uncomfortable, so you don't try to stay in it. He's removing your ability to be satisfied with less, so that you become ready to receive more. You may also feel a strange detachment, not numbness exactly, not depression, but a kind of stepping back from your own life, observing more than reacting, witnessing more than engaging. This detachment is not dissociation, it's discernment, developing. You are learning to see clearly by removing emotional fusion with every outcome. You are learning to respond instead of react, to consider instead of compulsively act. This inner neutrality is preparation for wealth, because wealth amplifies whatever pattern it enters. If you are emotionally volatile before wealth arrives, you will be more volatile after. If you are calm and centered before, you will be more calm and centered after. God is teaching you neutrality now, so that abundance doesn't destabilize you later. He is training your nervous system to operate without constant stimulation, so that prosperity doesn't become another form of chaos in your life. Your intuition has also been sharpening. You sense things before they're spoken. You feel misalignment quickly. You pick up on subtle shifts in energy that you would have missed before. This sensitivity is not weakness, it's refinement. God is tuning your perception so that you can navigate the next season with precision, because what's coming will require discernment more than effort. You will need to know when to move and when to wait, when to speak and when to be silent, when to engage and when to withdraw. These decisions cannot be made from emotion, they must be made from alignment, and alignment requires sensitivity that most people never develop. Anointed one, the solitude you crave right now is not rejection of others. It is integration of self. You are integrating lessons that were learned under pressure. You are making sense of experiences that once felt chaotic. You are allowing your inner world to settle so that your outer world can reflect it. This integration requires space. Just as muscles need rest to grow, consciousness needs stillness to expand. The solitude you crave is not something to resist. It is something to honor. It is the womb in which your next version is being formed. There is another aspect of this transformation I need to address. Your relationship with time itself is changing. You may have noticed that urgency no longer controls you the way it once did. Deadlines that used to create panic now create calm focus. Delays that used to frustrate now create opportunity for deeper preparation. This shift in your relationship with time is critical for wealth, because wealth requires long-term thinking. It requires the ability to plant seeds that won't bear fruit for years. It requires patience with processes that don't deliver instant results. The urgency-driven person cannot steward generational wealth. They make decisions based on immediate pressure rather than eternal alignment. They sacrifice long-term stability for short-term relief. They build quickly but not solidly. God is removing urgency from your operating system because urgency is incompatible with the kind of wealth He's preparing to release. What's coming to you is not quick money that arrives fast and leaves faster. It's established provision that requires established character to manage. You may also notice that your definition of success is being rewritten. The metrics that once defined winning no longer satisfy. External markers that used to excite now feel irrelevant. You're less interested in how things look and more interested in how things actually are. This is maturity forming. The immature person measures success by appearance. The mature person measures success by alignment. And God is maturing you rapidly because what's coming requires a mature steward, not an excited recipient. Anointed one, let me speak to the fear that may still linger. The fear that this transformation means you're losing something important. The fear that the old version of you was somehow better. The fear that what you're becoming is less alive than what you were. That fear is a lie. You are not losing passion. Passion is being refined into purpose. You are not losing drive. Drive is being transformed into discernment. You are not losing yourself. You are finally finding yourself, perhaps for the first time. What you're shedding was never really you anyway. It was coping mechanisms. It was survival strategies. It was adaptations you developed to navigate a season that's now ending. Shedding those is not loss, it's liberation. The you that emerges from this transformation will be more powerful, more peaceful, more purposeful than any version you've been before. And that version is worth every uncomfortable moment of this transition. There is a kind of authority that only silence can produce. It cannot be manufactured through speaking. It cannot be performed for audiences. It can only be cultivated in quiet. You felt this authority beginning to form in you. It's not loud. It's not aggressive. It doesn't need to convince anyone of anything. It simply is. And its presence is felt more than its words are heard. Authority does not rush to speak. Authority waits until its presence speaks first. Authority does not defend itself against every accusation. Authority allows time and outcome to provide the defense. Authority does not announce its plans. Authority allows results to do the announcing. Chosen one, you are developing this kind of authority right now. Every day you choose silence over premature speaking. Authority builds. Every time you resist the urge to explain yourself, authority deepens. Every moment you hold what you're carrying without leaking it, authority strengthens. This authority will serve you in the wealth season. Because wealth without authority creates chaos. Money comes, but so does pressure. Opportunity arrives, but so do expectations. Resources appear, but so do people wanting access. Only authority can navigate that complexity without being overwhelmed. Only the settled confidence that knows who you are and whose you are can stand firm when everyone has an opinion about what you should do with what you've received. I want to address the guilt you may feel about becoming less accessible. There may be people in your life who are confused by your changing. People who remember the old you, the one who shared everything, who was always available, who processed externally with whoever would listen. They may interpret your current silence as rejection. They may feel shut out. They may wonder what they did wrong. Release the responsibility to manage their interpretation. You cannot control how people perceive your growth. You can only control whether you obey what God is asking of you. And right now, God is asking for silence. He is asking for discretion. He is asking for containment. The relationships that are truly aligned with your future will survive this season. The people who are genuinely supposed to walk with you into abundance will still be there when the silence lifts, and the relationships that don't survive were either seasonal or were based on access rather than actual alignment. Anointed one, when the time comes for you to speak again, and that time will come, you won't need to announce anything. The fruit will speak for itself. The results will answer questions you never addressed. The outcome will provide all the explanation anyone needs. This is what happens when something is built in silence. It emerges with its own authority. It doesn't need defending because its existence is its defense. It doesn't need explaining because its presence is its explanation. You are building something like that right now, something that will emerge with authority, something that will speak for itself, something that won't need your constant narration to be believed. That's worth the silence. That's worth the restraint. That's worth the temporary discomfort of being misunderstood. Chosen one, before I speak the closing blessing, there is one more truth you must receive. What is coming to you is not just a blessing, it is a responsibility, and responsibilities require a different posture than gifts. When wealth arrives, it arrives with weight, not heavy in a burdensome way, but significant in a purposeful way. What God is releasing to you is not random provision for random purposes, it is specific provision for specific assignment. There are things you are called to build. There are people you are called to help. There are systems you are called to create. There are problems you are called to solve. The wealth approaching your life is the resource heaven is providing to accomplish those specific purposes. This is why discretion matters so intensely. When you share too broadly what you have before you've established what it's for, people begin to assign purposes to your resources that were never heaven's intention. They see your wealth and immediately think of how it could serve their vision, their need, their agenda. And if you're not clear on your specific assignment, if you haven't protected the clarity of your purpose, their voices can drown out heaven's instruction. You end up building someone else's vision with resources that were meant for yours. I've watched this happen to generous people. Their hearts were pure, their intentions were good, but their discretion was weak, and slowly, incrementally, their resources flowed toward purposes that were never assigned to them. They funded other people's dreams while their own assignment remained unfunded. They solved other people's problems while their own calling remained unsupported. Chosen one, the wealth coming to you has a specific purpose. Part of remaining silent right now is allowing that purpose to become clearer and clearer. When you know exactly what you're building, you can say no to everything that doesn't serve that vision. When you're clear on your assignment, you can resist the pressure to fund someone else's. But if you announce too early, before the purpose is crystallized, you invite purposes that aren't yours. You attract expectations that don't align. You create obligations that weren't heaven's intention. So let me say this plainly, your wealth has an address, it has a destination, it has a purpose, and protecting that purpose is as important as receiving the resource itself. Anointed one. There is also a generational dimension to what you're carrying. What God is releasing to you is not just for you. It is meant to extend beyond your lifetime. It is meant to create pathways that others will walk after you are gone. Generational wealth requires generational thinking, and generational thinking cannot survive scattered focus, impulsive decisions, or pressure from people who don't understand what you're building. The silence you're practicing now is protecting not just your present, but your legacy. It is guarding not just your breakthrough, but your children's foundation. It is stewarding not just your blessing, but the blessing of those who will inherit what you establish. This is weight, sacred weight, but you were prepared to carry it. Every season of struggle you endured was preparation for this. Every moment of waiting was building capacity for this. Every time you remained faithful when you could have given up was proving to heaven that you could be trusted with this. You are ready, not because you feel ready, but because heaven has declared it so. Let me give you specific instructions for the days ahead. These are not suggestions. These are spiritual assignments that will protect what is forming and prepare the ground for what is coming. First, guard your mornings. The first hour of your day shapes the remaining 23. Before you allow any external voice into your consciousness, before you check notifications or consume news, create space for heaven to speak. Your mornings are the setting of your frequency for the day. Protect them fiercely. Second, write what you sense but do not share what you write. Documentation strengthens clarity. When you put into words what you're perceiving, it becomes more concrete. But written words can remain private. They don't require an audience. They can serve you without being broadcast. Journal what God is showing you. Write down the specific instructions, the particular directions, the unique revelations. But let those journals remain between you and heaven until the time for speaking arrives. Third, practice saying less than you could. This is a discipline that takes time to develop. When conversations invite you to share, offer less than you're capable of offering. Not as deception, but as restraint. Let the incompleteness of your answer be comfortable. Let the mystery remain. This discipline trains you for wealth, because when wealth arrives, everyone will have questions, everyone will want details, everyone will expect access, and your ability to say less than you could is the boundary that preserves your peace. Fourth, release the need to be understood by everyone. This is perhaps the hardest instruction. We are wired for connection. We want people to see us, know us, understand us, but there are seasons where being understood is not the priority. Obedience is. In this season, you may be misunderstood. People may form incorrect conclusions about you. They may think you've changed in negative ways, when really you've grown in necessary ways. Let them. Their misunderstanding is the price of your obedience. Fifth, invest in your foundation while you wait. The waiting period is not empty time, it is building time. Use it to strengthen what will need to be strong when wealth arrives. Get your finances organized. Clear what can be cleared. Create systems that will scale. Build relationships with people who can walk with you into abundance. Develop skills that wealth will require you to exercise. The temptation in waiting is to wait passively, to simply let time pass until manifestation occurs. But passive waiting wastes preparation time. Active waiting builds during the pause. Be active. Sixth and finally, remember that the silence will lift. This is not a permanent state. The restraint you're practicing now is seasonal. There will come a moment when heaven says, "Now you can speak," And when that moment arrives, you will speak with authority you wouldn't have had if you hadn't honored the silence. The people who break silence too early forfeit the authority that patience builds, but you are not breaking early. You are holding position. You are honoring timing. And when the release comes, your words will carry weight that impatient words could never carry. Chosen one. As this word settles into your spirit, receive this moment with reverence. You are not late. You are not early. You are standing exactly where heaven intended you to be. This is your Kairos moment, the appointed intersection where what has been prepared in secret begins to move into visible form. What God has reserved for you is already in motion, already authorized in the spirit realm, already assigned to your stewardship, already marked with your name. You did not imagine this season. You were summoned into it. You did not create this knowing. It was placed in you. You did not manufacture this expectancy. It was cultivated by heaven. Your wealth is real. What you've sensed is accurate. What you've felt approaching is approaching. And the silence you've been practicing is the very thing that will allow you to receive it fully when it arrives. Anointed one, I declare over your life that what you have carried in silence will soon manifest in clarity. What has been forming without words will emerge without struggle. What has been protected in hiddenness will be revealed with authority. You are not waiting for permission. You are walking under divine approval. The hand of God is upon you, steadying your steps, guarding your heart, preparing your capacity, and releasing what only heaven could orchestrate. May peace settle deeply in your spirit. The kind of peace that doesn't need external circumstances to validate it. The kind that remains steady whether manifestation is visible yet or not. May discernment guide every decision. The clarity to know who can know and who cannot. The wisdom to speak when it's time to speak and remain silent when silence is required. May provision meet you without strain, not provision that you had to force into existence, not breakthrough that you had to manufacture through exhaustion, but provision that arrives because heaven authorized it, breakthrough that manifests because the timing was right. May favor surround you without explanation, the kind of favor that doesn't make sense to observers, the kind that opens doors you didn't knock on, creates opportunities you didn't pursue, brings resources you didn't ask for. You are covered, you are chosen, you are prepared. Not everyone can know what God is doing in you, and that's okay. That's wisdom, that's protection, that's heaven operating precisely in your life. If this word confirmed what you've been sensing, if this message put language to what you couldn't articulate, you may write 777 in the comments as a sacred acknowledgement of agreement, and share the city or nation where you're watching from as a quiet declaration that this is where divine order is manifesting. Subscribe to stay connected. There is more coming. More instruction, more protection, more revelation, and move forward knowing that what is coming will speak for itself. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to defend it. You don't need to explain it. When wealth arrives, it carries its own authority. When breakthrough manifests, it provides its own evidence. When the door opens, everyone will see that you were always supposed to walk through it. Until then, remain faithful in the silence. Remain anchored in the knowing. Remain confident in what you cannot yet prove. Your wealth is real. Not everyone can know, and that's exactly how heaven intended it. Go forward, chosen one. What's coming will speak for itself. The waiting is almost complete. The preparation has done its work. The container is ready. The timing is aligning, and heaven is watching with anticipation as you move into the season you were always destined to enter. Your wealth is real. Your breakthrough is approaching. Your provision is in motion. Not everyone can know the details. Not everyone is authorized to witness the process, but you know, and heaven knows, and that is enough. That is more than enough. Go now. Walk in the authority of what you're carrying. Move with the confidence of what you're becoming. Rest in the certainty of what is coming. Your season has begun, and nothing can stop what heaven has authorized.